All right, we are recording. This is our very first podcast episode, Slaves to Sovereigns, with your hosts, Paige L. Bay and the Honorable King L. Bay. We are here today talking to you all about a couple of things as it pertains to sovereignty, but this is an introductory episode. Um, on my channels, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook, I've shared King's content. And when I've gone live, I've talked to you all about King's content and perspective, especially as it pertains to contracts and setting up a religious institution that's designed for our liberation and understanding how to contract with the United States jurisdiction, how to go in and out of the jurisdiction. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with the first question. I'm also going to allow King to introduce himself and discuss the purpose and the objective of this podcast and the messages that King would like to convey to the masses. So without further ado, King.
Hello, everyone. It's your boy King L. Bay. I'm just want to speak to the audience to give you some insight of what I've learned through this litigation prowess and the things that we need to do and address so that we can get back on to point with how we conduct ourselves and understand our relationship with the United States. So it's very to understand the purpose of this institution and the objective of this podcast to educate those who are oblivious and who are somewhat astute to this information but need extra guidance and understanding and the importance of contracts so that they can get the proper treatment and they don't have to be subjected or subjugate their rights to get certain benefits and privileges of the United States when they can protect those rights. So the institution that I have established within the three folds, there's three components. There's the temple affairs, because we branched out. We still have the must, but the must is closing down. It has now regenerated itself into a new entity, a new transformation, a birthing of a more sophisticated institution that will empower our members to ensure the integrity of everything they're doing when moving forward so that now you will have the protection that you need when you move around and not be when you're in this world but not being of it. So the three institutions I would like to introduce you to is the Temple Affairs, is the religious body. Then you have the mass media society, which is the society of which you will be a part of. And then you have the protectorate. It's called the Moorish Guild. This is where they protect your rights, and it's an apparatus in which you can contract through, and it is there to ensure it's everything about your rights.
Wonderful. Thank you for that explanation, King. So that people understand how the institution is set up and the different compartments of it. I would like you to go into who are you and what caused you to this path? Who is King and what caused you to this path? How long have you been doing this investigative work with assisting people understand their rights, how to contract with the jurisdiction and things like that, and dealing with cases?
Um, I'll give you a little bit about my background. I come from a nursing background, and I believe that I was chosen for this. Um, I this is what God chose and made me for. I was pushed into this. This was my calling. I couldn't run from it. I tried to escape from my ministry for so many years. And, I wanted to, be in the world, be of the world and do worldly things. But my ministry was a gift. It was an insight into the world of the Most High, in which He gave me this gift, and I must share this gift because He's ordering my footsteps. So I got into nursing. Through nursing, it helped me understand critical thinking. It helped me understand the rule out process, and it helped me understand and relate, make law a little more palatable based on the techniques and skills that was used in nursing. It transferred over into law. So I was able to take those critical elements of nursing, because it's a life and death situation, and utilize that in law to better assess, and it made me very well rounded in this area. So now that I can specifically articulate certain things in a specific manner that is powerful enough to not only draw the attention of the court and understand how to move the court in such arrangement due to my understanding of law. Then it transgressed, or I ain't gonna say I'm used the wrong word. It then I was more empowered by studying law, and then I started looking into contract law. As I looked into contract law, I started understanding the devil was in the details. So that's a lot of things that attracted my attention. I said, this is where the devil lies, in the details of things. And people are not, most of us sign contracts and we never read them. We're running around here and subjugating our rights, and we're under contracts that we don't even understand the elements of what they exist. So this was my duty, my calling, in which God have chosen me for, and I must now honor what He put me here to do.
That's wonderful. So, how long have you been doing contract law research? How long have you been studying law? You know, what was the
I mean
yeah,
the
the catalyst.
what they call
Yes.
the catalyst.
Yes. What was the
I had
catalyst?
a child support was my first area. Um, I got put on child support, and I was trying to understand certain things. Um, and why the child support system was moving so rapidly. They didn't hear nothing. They was telling me a whole bunch of things, and I was like, something that doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right. I had a child that I had been caring for from her birth. I I had insurance. Her mother birthed the child under my care, under my insurance, under medical. I Once we separated, she was under my care. And when I got put on child support, I was like, wait a minute, she's been under my care for 3 years. I got documentation that her mother says that she lives with me, in which she signed these contracts with um, um, with the state to be able to get daycare services. So all of these things was there. They was like, well, told me if mom moved to Vegas and came back, in 5 years you wouldn't have never had custody because you never went to court. And I'm like, how do the court decide my fate with my child? So from there, it made me start inquiring. Just started researching and researching. And then from learning child support, I started diving into law, and then other areas of law. And then once I dove into those areas, I started studying contract law. I started helping people in different various of aspects of um, the legal process. I started giving people information and guidance and everything that they needed to do. And as I started having success in my case and cases, I started then being able to unravel people cases due to the fact I told you from that nursing background, I was able to see things that a lot of people didn't see, the critical components in law that needed to be woven so that people can make a particular argument in their case, and it started weighing heavy. Then I learned about due process and the importance of due process of law, and what did the court and the justice system say about due process, in which it stated that due process is the hinge in which the justice system swing from, and that's the only thing that the court has to offer and guarantee is due process. So once I understood that due process is what I needed to tack, that due process is the constitutional guarantee, not your innocent or guilt, your is that is what the court guaranteed. I started targeting how the court treated due process, and through that treatment of due process, I started learning how to get remedy.
Wonderful. And the due process that you're referring to is the due process that the Constitution lays out in the Fifth and 14th Amendment, correct?
Yes,
Yes. And the due process that we've talked about, substantive due process and procedural due process. Um, I,
yes,
I would
ma'am.
I would advise people to look up those two for substantive due process as well as procedural due process and everything that goes along with that. So, King, I want to also discuss the accomplishments and accolades that you have had with your investigative work as it pertains to um, researching to help people with their cases. The array. So has it been mortgages? Have you dipped and dabbed in civil and criminal, assisting with the investigative work with those cases, child support, and
Yes.
the literary works that you have? Can you discuss
Okay.
that too?
Okay, so as I started helping people, so it started in the area of child support. For myself, I had got my child support dismissed on misunderstanding what was necessary, the components. One of the things that I understand about substantive due process is your unalienable right to contract. No one can take that away from you. That's your God given right. um, your right to contract and to decide your fate is your God given right. No one can interfere with that. Nobody can make you or force you into a contract. No one can make you be a part of anything. And no one can force it. You have a right to understand through informed consent. So, what I started helping people. So, I helped the guy with child support, and he needed to understand child I'm sorry. Um, I needed to understand, try to help. So I have started helping um, many of tens um, of people started with their cases. So it ranged from child support, criminal, civil, now into mortgage, and breaking down, looking into what's going on in their case, learning how to communicate, because this is about treatment. Everything is about contracts. So people got to learn how to treat you. So the contract determine how you get treated. That's your status. Who are you in relationship to everything that you do and everything that you touch? What is your relationship to that? And you have to understand, from your car to your home, what is that? Or do you own it? Or are you the owner? So there are various ranges of ownership. Beneficial owner, right? That's a status. You see what I'm saying? Then you have trustee. That's a status. All of these different things in relationship to an institution, a trust, or an estate. What is your relationship to these things? What dictate, and where's the contracts determine how you should be identified and how you should be treated with your relationship to everything.
Got it. Yeah. Um, oh, go ahead, King. Sorry. Okay, so before let's go back. I want to ask you about the temple affairs and why it was important at this time to set up a religious institution. I know that the religious institution has been set up for a few years, but you talked about the Moorish Guild, you talked about the Temple of Fez, and the Mus Temple. Um, I wanted to ask you about why we need an institution. I know that many people who have gone down the sovereignty route get labeled sovereign citizens, lose some of their cases, uh, because they're going at this from an individual level. They don't have the support and the backing of an institution where there's multiple components to the institution moving so that it can, also address another machine such as the United States, right? When it's one person going up against the United States or one living being going up against the United States, it's very easy to be ran over. But when you have an institution set up, things run a little differently. So, why was it important for you to set up a religious institution to assist others with the investigative work, to assist others with the divine mission and the calling from the Most High?
Okay, so you got to understand the institution itself called the United States. The United States protect religious rights. Not only is it protected in the United States, it's protected internationally. So you have to, when you do this kind of investigative work, you have to see what's going on, what the law say about these institutions of religion and how they're protected. So the First Amendment tells you, hey, we got to protect these religious rights. They can't, the United States can't even make laws that hurt your religion. It says establishments of religion, and it talks about that. And they cannot do anything for us respecting religion. That word respect, if you go to the etymology, is injure. Nor can they prohibit the free exercise of religion. So the religion is unencumbered. It can't be leaned. They have a prohibition against it. So they can't do it. So I set up the religious institution as a mechanism for our protection. As being a Moor, your institution recognizes your nationality. It can confer your nationality, and it treats you according to your nationality, and it can make other people respect your nationality. Not only can it make it respected because your nationality is embedded in your religious rights. This is who you are. You make a Once you understand how to publicize to the world who you are and how you are coming, now people are going to recognize you. Now you can move around and not be caught up into this sovereign citizen thing because you understand how to move. And when you're moving through contracts,
Okay, awesome. So I know that when people hear more, even myself, I ain't gonna lie, sometimes you kind of cringe a little bit because of the um the situations with the Moors and how a lot of the processes that they have can get people injured or have gotten people injured. Some people say the processes don't work. You could be labeled a sovereign citizen, things of that nature. But also, there have been wars that have had a lot of success. We have to look at the part where it has to go both ways, where a lot of the wins are not vocalized because they operated on the private side of things, on the confidential side of things, and so that's not really broadcasted. But there's also the losses that are also more so of ostracized and put out to the public so that people are like, the Moorish movement, I'm not really attracted to that, right? So let me ask you this, because when we've talked, I know that you do things quite differently when you've done your investigative work. When you've done investigative work, you know, the basis of your arguments have not been nationality. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So it has been the due process. That has been more so of the root and the foundation is due process, making sure that the court guarantees due process because they don't really care about your nationality. Am I correct?
Yes. You're
Mm.
correct on those things. So you have to so when you understand that the United States, everything when you create an LLC or even the straw man, it's a part of a banking system. The banking system don't care about creed, color, race, religion. Anybody can do a banking. You are all accepted based on you come as you are. Now, once you get sucked into that jurisdiction, the thing that you have to understand that you have to honor those rules. You can't come in somebody else's house with dirty feet. You got to clean your feet. You got to follow the direction of what's going on. So, what you have to understand is in relationship to everything your relationship with the United States. So, the one thing I target is due process. What is the substantive rights that a lot of people don't even know or figure out? Your contract, the court, they tell you courts can't interfere with obligations of a contract. So if they can't interfere with your religious rights or interfere with your obligation to contract, why aren't you moving through those apparatuses through your religion and the right of contract? Now they're interfering with your contract rights, which they are not allowed to do. So if you understand, and what I'm starting to understand is what is your relationship even with your car? So when you have a car, some people say, I put my car in the trust. What do that mean in relationship to your status? Where's other contracts that say certain things? Like, for example, the contract say you might can use the car or you can utilize this car and they give you a certificate of use or whatever, and that now you are held harmless if you driving this car and injure somebody, that the institution is going to handle all of that. And the institution is going to file the necessary documents to discharge or offset any obligation or whatever, or the institution can be the insurance, whatever the circumstances may be. You can create your reality through contracts with everything, your cell phone, your TV, all of this stuff. So you have to understand the importance of this and why I created this, because most of us, like I said, once again, we go get on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, we go get a car, we go get a cell phone, we go apply for um, credit cards, and we don't even read the contracts. We don't even read them. We don't even understand what we read. So we put ourselves in a situation, and then when we get sucked in, or they're taking your car, they're taking your home, or they're taking your things, how did you safeguard your rights? How did you tell them to treat you to prevent such a thing from happening? How did you create a situation that is favorable to you based upon what you sacrificed to them? You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't understand the importance. So with this having these three institutions, this holy trinity, we then utilize this information and utilize these three branches to protect you in every angle so that you can thrive, have thrivability in understanding these processes so that you can move and don't have to go into court and argue all of these different things. You show up with contracts. You seal the case. This is not a public record. This is private. This is confidential information. This is not a public venue. You can argue equity. You can make if people are in a trust, now you got equity. Now you can tell them, hey, they was acting as a trustee. They got sucked into the trust. So when you see, a lot of people think, well, I gotta go to the chancery court. The court, when you understand venue in the paperwork that you present and which you request, the the court have to then change into the proper venue necessary to give you the remedy. So a lot of people are running around looking for things that's already right in front of their face, and they just don't understand how to activate and stimulate the court to move in a certain capacity.
Let me ask you this. I got two questions here. When it comes down to, I know a lot of people are into the secure party creditor process and the UCCs. With this institution, is it necessary to even go that route with the contracts, with filing a UCC and things of that nature, and pursuing the secure party creditor process? And then the other thing that I had to ask you was, the other thing I had to ask you was, when you said securing your rights in all aspects, I know that I've talked to people about the biometric data component and how we need to work on that. I know me and you have talked about the world coin where they're scanning your eye. They're trying to create the digital.
Paige, you went out. I can't hear you. I can't hear you for some reason. I still can't. Can you hear me? I don't know what happened.
Okay. Okay. So the two questions that I was asking, sorry about that, folks. The two questions that I was asking is the UCC process, UCC1 process, UCC filings, are those even necessary when dealing with the religious institution in terms of contracts? Because I know a lot of people pursue the secure party creditor process for sovereignty. And the other thing that I wanted to ask you was, with the biometric data, is when you say that you are in the interest, the religious institution is in the interest of protecting and safeguarding your rights from all aspects. I talk to people about the importance of how we have to protect ourselves from a social credit system that is constantly trying to harvest our biometrics that belong to God, right? That could be safeguarded by our religious rights. Is the religious institution going to be responsible for safeguarding those rights in terms of biometric data? Those are the questions that I have in terms of, is the UCC process necessary? The secure party creditor necessary when you have your religious institution? And how can the religious institution protect the biometric data of the members?
Okay, the first element that you're talking about, the UCCs, it's not a necessary component. but it still can be utilized. It still can be effective into the process because you could do a non-UCC, and like I tell people, even when you do the UCCs, where's your contracts? You still need contracts to form the relationship between the two parties to understand rights, trust contracts. So, and utilizing most of the time, like a lot of people don't know, all of that stuff is licensed material. You're supposed to have a what is it, Series 7's license to even utilize a lot of these things. This is licensed material. It's copyright material. Who gave you permission to utilize even the UCCs or any statutes? UCCs are even, they're not state or federal law. They're outside. They're formulated under the District of Columbia. So what you got to understand is your relationship to the UCCs and can they be used. So if you're going to use them, it has to be in conjunction with a institution that's erected within the United States. The religious institution can understand how to contract with the institution you erect with the United States because it's outside of the boundaries and can control how the institution utilize any information and insert or import any records associated. Understanding how to do these things in contract, from licensing agreements, trade secrets, from everything that's necessary to have in these contracts. And the second component on protecting your biometric rights and all of that, your rights for is your vow of secrecy, idolatry, all of those different things will be incorporated. So no one can use your information without your permission and use it against you in any kind of form, and that they have to have consent. So as Muslims, a lot of us don't even supposed to have our pictures on different objects like driver's license and things like that. And you can ask for those to be utilized, or it's even owning your imagery and licensing your imagery, where you got non-commercial licensing and you got commercial licensing, in which you can, if you know how to contract, you can have it where how it that information or that imagery can be used, how people supposed to treat that imagery. Everything boils around your understanding of contract law determines how you're going to be treated, how the world is going to treat you, how they're going to treat you in relationship to everything that you come in contact with. You're supposed to set yourself up where you get treated like royalty. That's why copyright material is called royalties. Why? Because if you understand what you're doing with contracts, you're supposed to obtain royalties.
Let me ask you this, King. This is very good. I want to ask you this because we had a conversation about how a lot of people at this time, the past few years, were trying to do vaccine accommodations, right, or exemptions. A lot of people were trying to get that process, and they were getting denied. And we were talking about how it could be because they lacked sincerity. Where was the contract, right? That safeguarded that right so that you didn't have to take that for your job. So I want you to go into that too, because I was talking to people also about how the Church of Satan had um, been in the news recently because the state of New Mexico, the workers at some of their agencies were suggesting to people that were looking for abortions to contact the Church of Satan because they were able to do the abortions due to their religious rights. So I want to know your opinion and your take on that in terms of like the exemptions for the vaccines, as well as the legitimate and sincere contracts to be had when you are engaging in certain rituals and ceremonies for the sake of religion.
So first of all, we have to change our relationship and our status. A lot of us is going into these jobs as employees. One of the things you can do is change your status as employee into independent contractor. So change the nature of your relationship and you tell people how to treat you as an independent contractor, then you have the right to protect and safeguard your rights. And even as an employee, when you first come in through the door, you must give them notice about all of these different things. Hey, this is what I am, all of these things to safeguard your rights and make this a part of your employment package if they hire you that they were put on notice, they were aware of your status. So if anything happened, once again, that they have to treat you according to the contract that you set up, a part of your employment. All of this had to be recognized within your employment package. People going to jobs, you want to utilize religion, but you didn't come in using that from the gate. Now you want to throw this roadblock up. When all of this, they supposed to know, have all of this in regards when you first was hired. All of these things supposed to be known and should have known by your employer, which now can relate to religious discrimination because they understood your religious practice and they accept those conditions when you were hired.
Thank you for that. And the other question as it pertains to the Church of Satan, right? How they were able to um, provide sincerity with the abortions and how they're able to override the Supreme Court decision. Talk about the religious rights overriding certain, or how the Supreme Court can't override religious rights if there's a sincerity involved.
So what you got to understand is your sincerity is a form of a contract. Where's your contract? So you can waive your rights to do certain things. Your constitutional right, any right that was created or that can be protected, can be waived. Privileges and benefits can be taken or waived or not recognized or accepted if you sign contracts. If you move and understand the importance of contracts, how contracts can change the arrangement in your affairs between you and other parties. Once you understand these things, life becomes a little more simpler when you move through contracts because contracts already is predetermined your fate is sealed with the contract. Now people have to either they want it or not. And if they accept it, now it's recognized, and now you can say it's already was preordained through the contract. I have this covenant now with the Church of Satan. People are becoming moving into their membership, leaving their rights behind, and coming into a new covenant, contracting out those old rights, and coming into these new rights outside of the boundaries of the United States. It's just a matter of understanding how everything is intertwined, understanding your God given right. The God said from the beginning in Genesis, the Word was God, the Word was with God. So if the Word was with God, the Word was God, why aren't you using the proper words on paper to protect your rights? Because it's the words that's going to determine how you get treated. And if you don't have an institution that's created to set up and protect for you and say, hey, we announce to the world who we are, how we establish ourselves, how we this and how we that. And if you don't like it, okay, we don't have to play with you. And we only going to accept certain things under these conditions. And that we are morally obligated to do these things. And we're here to help, not to hurt. So You got to understand people treat you accordingly to understanding who you are, what you are, and they want to see the contracts. So if you got the contracts in place, you got to everything you need in your contract. You hit them with the kitchen sink, and you understand from one arrangement to another, and you have your trust that's also in place with everything that's going on. Then you can understand how powerful trust associated with contracts can cloak you and protect you in your movement, your coming and your going.
And and speaking of coming and going, right? I know that there's a Bible scripture that says that God determines the cometh and the goeth of a person in His image. So I know that a lot of people are interested in this whole travel situation, right? It's been a hiccup for some people who are in the sovereignty movement because they don't want to utilize the passport and things of that nature. But we've also talked about religious accommodations, right? And how the religious institution can educate people that are members on how to contract with the United States or others to make them uh, make them honor the religious accommodations when traveling, right? So, what would be your take on that?
So a lot of us are creating documents or creating situations that's where they're unrecognizable and they don't understand their relationship with the objects that they have in their possession. So there's multiple different forms, which I showed you in the past. There's over 13 different types of possessions. There's corporal, there's legal, there's physical possession. There's just a few types of possession. A lot of people don't understand when you're using these legal words. The court is presuming that you understand because you came into this and that they're implying these contracts. So what you have to understand when you trying to travel abroad or other things, you have to understand the international community and how it moves. A lot of y'all may can move through a visa, a religious visa, or other types of things that can be recognized through because these are different statuses as it relates to contracts. What's your intent? What's your purpose? All of these things, a lot of people, when you got these passports, and even having a United States passport, how you sign the document, how these contracts are implied and created, still create how you're supposed to be treated. Like I said, most of us are not safeguarding our rights, don't know how to contract, and just putting certain things into implement, and then we become liable for what's in the contract. So it just depends on the various things. There is a multiple statuses, definitely under treaty, that you can have a relationship to these things for as your right to travel, because nobody is really stopping you from traveling. The thing is that people have a right, and you have a right to be treated a certain way based upon your religious rights and how you identify with those religious rights. And they have treaties for that. But you have to come under the proper application so that now you'll get treated according to the application that you prescribe to and understand the contracts that may be annexed to that application that you gave or put into or forwarded or attached to that contract. So now you got evidence if you need to sue of the mistreatment that you have, because everything boils down to treatment.
Gotcha. I'm interested to know, because a lot of people sometimes will look at like religious institutions as very limiting. And so I do want to know who all is welcome to join the religious institution. Do you have to specifically be Muslim? Um, do you have to be of a certain group or whatever? Like, who would be welcome to join this religious institution and contribute to the religious institution?
Um, the institution, as a Muslim, we honor all faiths. We will not disregard or dishonor anyone's practice, long as it's not inhumane. It has to stay within a humanitarian field of work. It can't be inhumane. You know, killing of people, innocent people, killing of children, anything that's harmful to um, anyone, regardless of their color, creed, or religion, or whatever their gender. Um, we will protect that. Um, we preferably, we accept, all the traditional religions and a lot of these other things they're practicing. The only thing I might have some trouble with is certain things, but I don't want to discuss that. That will be more for a private conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
but majority of people are welcome to practice what they feel, long as it's humane. Nothing inhumane that we consider inhumane.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. I do have another question as it pertains to the ways of living, because I know that the Amish have been notable in the United States, or they've been notable to live outside the jurisdiction of the United States for so long, and they've been recognized as a sovereign group. However, we've also seen how some Amish have been subjected to the jurisdiction of the United States, such as some getting their property taken, some being able to get arrested, um, getting in trouble for some reason. So I wanted to know, what is your take on the independent members of the Amish, and what went wrong when addressing things such as getting arrested or getting land taken and things like that? Like, was it the contracts that the Amish had that they didn't read, or was it some way that they intertwined themselves, where their rights were um, terminated, or they waived their rights?
Well, I want people to understand, just because you see something or something being betrayed doesn't mean that the system is in error. The government, they make mistakes all the time. They do things outside of their scope all the time. The issue is, how do you deal with those? What institution do you have in place that's going to give pushback to make them correct their error if they illegally arrest you or take property that they may can't take, or due to treaty rights? Because you got to understand, property is, and we are dealing in international law. When you look at treaty, when you hear the word ceded, land is ceded through treaty. And you have to understand, there's geographical boundaries. All this land over here, it's a lot of land that's unscathed, that the United States don't have interest in, due to the fact that there are treaties that don't touch those areas or whatever. So you have to look at everything that's going on to determine the rights associated with, not only with the United States and these land rights, but you have to refer to treaty. So the purpose of this institution is that it's going to have investigative bodies to help and do that, and we create continuing education to educate our members on, okay, we found and just made these discoveries based on treaties, ancient treaties that now we can use to say, hey, here's the jurisdiction, here's the geographical borderline. We can do this over here and nobody can have nothing to say about it, and all of these different things. And it's just so many things that we have to, that when you see on TV, you don't necessarily have to believe it because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So it's just about safeguarding your rights. And when your rights are violated, how can you protect them and have pushback and understanding what you need to do and set up with an institution that may have allied institutions in which they can help you push back on these errors that were made.
Got it. Got it. Um, so I also wanted to know too, with the religious institution, are people expected to, not work a job, not have a business, not contract with the United States in terms of uh, engaging in commercial activity? Because I know that a lot of us are used to um, the money, are used to the system in some ways. Not everybody has land in rural areas and their own water system and their own food supply and things like that. So a lot of people may be concerned about how to sustain themselves when contracting with the religious institution and not having as much contact with the United States. How can one's rights be safeguarded, religious rights be safeguarded, and also still contract with the United States for a job or a business or whatever the case may be?
So you can set up any arrangement that you want and you can hold certain things harmless. It's your understanding of contract. You can create any scenario you want. You must know how to create the arrangement that you want and then utilize those contracts to have people treat you accordingly to what is there in the contract. So the first thing is being able, just because you're in the United States, you have to know how to contract and understand how to use certain elements within the contracts. If you're going to use the UCCs and all of these different components, learn how to incorporate them correctly so that now they're evidence in your contracts. They're part of the substance in which people got to treat you. Now, on the other hand, when you're dealing with trying to gain sovereignty and gain land, the part of the purpose of the institution, this is called estate planning. We're planning to develop our independence and get started on our independence so that we can have our own system, culture, and understand everything that we need to do it on an independent level where now we master the art of independence and be able to effectively compete in the world and be able to sustain our lifestyle and do the things that according to how we want to live and not let someone else dictate to it. But you first got to understand all of these different things, and the members have to understand their role in the institution. This is why when we set it up, you have continuing education process that people have to be continuously educated on these factors. So we set up institutions where areas where we weak at also to help us develop and build.
Wonderful. I wanted to know, when people join the institution, because I know that we talked about how we have to build a machine and it can't just be a few of us that run the institution, because even the United States, they have millions of employees and independent contractors. And so in order for us to be a peaceful force in the world, that can sustain itself, we are going to need beings that recognize that this work has to be done. can you get into the kind of assistance that you may need with setting up this institution? How can you be supported in your efforts with making sure that this institution runs the way that you intended it to go?
One thing about this institution that people understand, people they want a part of their freedom, or they want their freedom, and they want to be able to do it and for them in a comfortable manner. And if you want those comfort, you have to understand there has to take, we're a donation based, or a religious sacrifice based institution. Um, we run off of those things. We're not a commercial enterprise. The institution itself is based on religious sacrifices that people give to the church. Then the church, as an apparatus or a catalyst, can trigger other institutions and move in those areas that's necessary to create a sustainable lifestyle for us. And it creates a life support system that can also do commercial activities, that can independently contract with the United States. You know what I'm saying? As an independent contractor, and get employment and create jobs and all of these different things, so that now we can live accordingly to the standard of which we want to live in. So people have to understand that. So they can still work in the United States. There's a lot of stuff that we can do. There's a lot of contracts that we're perfecting or creating to support people in their endeavors, when even trying to go to work and understanding what they're trying to do to encompass this journey that we all have a right to exercise.
Got it. Um, One of the because I know that we coming up on our time, but I had a few more questions. Um, when talking about, because I know that you stated in the past that you've wanted to push an institution in a way that was productive, but I know that a lot of indigenous folks came through, and you talked about setting the trust up, but once the trust was set up, a lot of people bounced. And I want to discuss the importance of why it's important that we all stick together and be team players, and that we continue the education so that the institution can continue to thrive. Um, can you talk about how um, the trust itself is just not enough for a person to just bounce on, right?
Well, in the past, I have committed myself. I have created a trust, and members, they wanted to trust. So they, once I dispersed the trust, they took it and ran off. The thing that I'm I'm looking at now is, even with having a trust, most of them don't have the skills that I have. They don't have the litigation prowess. They don't have the legal and contract knowledge that I have. They don't have it. So they believe that the trust is their salvation, and it's not. Most of them don't even understand how they're going to put things that belong to the United States in their trust, creating a situation where their trust can be pierced. They don't even understand that these things. They say, "Oh, I gotta put everything in a trust." So you got to understand piercing the veil. You're supposed to control things. That don't mean you're supposed to always own everything. Certain things can be owned by corporations, and that the trust control. A lot of people just don't understand how everything's supposed to go. They think, "Oh, I got to trust. I'm gonna file the UCCs. I'm gonna do a WA a Form 56. I'm gonna do all of this stuff. I'm gonna send in my bond to the Treasury and all of these different components." But there is more to this. If they tell you bluntly that they cannot interfere with contracts. And if you look up treaty, a treaty ain't nothing but a contract. If you look up all of these components, right? You even a bond. What is a bond? It's a contract. It just have a maturity date. All of these things, it has an expiration date. All of these things, you have to understand the elements of a contract. You can't have a forever contract. A contract got to expire. There has to be an expiration date. You can't put somebody under that's servitude. This a lot of people say, well, this they don't understand how to contract. You can't put a lien on all the members. You can't do everything has to have an expiration date. You have to give value to these things. That's why people can't enforce. I did a UCC. The court really wanted to be ignorant. A lot of these times, what I try to tell people when they have a success in some of their traffic cases and these small, minute cases, the court just don't feel like being bothered. They don't feel like allowing you to congest the court with your nonsense because you don't understand all the components to what's going on. Like I try to tell people, okay, let's, for example, we're going to talk about LeBron James. He has a contract with the Lakers. If the police officers illegally detain him, arrest him, hurt him, injure him, break a finger, do anything, he has a contract. Every time he misses a game, that's a contract that he's missing out on. Those people who harmed him, done injury, is every time he don't play in the game, they got to pay him, reward it. There's evidence that there's something that between the LA Lakers and LeBron, they created a value system based upon his performance and his athletic abilities on the court. There was a promise that was made between the two parties. Nobody has a right to interfere and injure or break up their contract due to their ignorance of their job or whatever else. Most people don't know how to create these situations where there's a contraction where you can walk into the court and say, I want to sue for this based on I have a contract in place with this order, with this institution that says this and this and this, and this is how they consider me. This is how I'm supposed to be treated. This is what's going on, and you violated that, so you owe me compensation according to that. Now, if they said they're gonna give me this, you don't got this, well, you got to give me something equivalent to this. Most people don't know how to do that. They don't know how to create those situations. That's why they're not getting all the remedy that they need because they don't understand this. This was, I'm going to explain to the audience, this was a gift from God. I didn't know all of this. This was downloaded into me. This was something that was given. That's why I say I was chosen for this. I didn't pick this. I didn't want this. This was given to me. Most people don't have this insight. You can look around the internet all you want. You're going to hear them. And I'm going to tell you, most of them do not know how to create value. They say, I got a fee schedule. That's fine. What does that mean? Well, this if they stop me, it's $1,000. Nah, brother. You got to have a contract. They impeding your ability to move to another contract. You had another job to do. Where's the contract? Where you can show you was injury and you miss out on this thing based upon what? You just had to be here to here to here. And you missed out on that because they said they was going to give you this in gold or whatever they was going to give you in. And you need something equivalent to match what you missed out on. You can't, people can't, you just can't pull people into your trust. They're not trustees. You can't make people give you fees for something and you don't have certain things associated with it. You have to understand the contract elements in the game altogether. LeBron have a contract. If he miss a game, it's a certain amount of money that he was supposed to get from the Lakers.
Got it. So one final question that I have for you, King, is one, your classes, because I know that we said that we were going to start up the institution's sacrifice based classes. Where can people find you on the internet? One, and two, how can people um, join these classes? Is it like a wait list that people will be on? Is it a cap on the limit of people that would be able to join these classes? And is there a cap on the membership of the religious institution?
No, you can find me on Facebook. I do also have the Must YouTube channel. Um, but a lot of things is going like within the development process. So we're going to be setting it up where how people can donate or make their religious sacrifice and be a part of that. The membership is like I said, it's going to be open. So we're going to have open enrollment so people can just join and they're going to understand like if they want this stuff to move, what is necessary for the movement. So we're going to explain that. You're going to get a plethora of various information, contracts, a whole lot of information. But the thing you get is the institution itself.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us do not know what we're signing. You need a contract negotiator, someone who can look at your contract, go over it, circle the things, and say, "Hold up, let's look at all of this before you sign." Most of us are not doing that. You don't have the safeguards necessary. So it's going to be a lot of things that you get with that. So you can find me on King L Bay on Facebook. You know, we have also the Must Universal Society of Tribes on Facebook. We got the Must, but now we involved. We still using the Must logo for the Mass Mudia Society, and it's changed. And now we're coming into our own to a better movement. And I'm here to help. I'm here to do God's work with Paige. We're gonna be working side by side. You're gonna, hear her as much as you're gonna hear me. You're gonna see her as much as you're gonna see me. You're gonna see my brother Chief Vandalay, where he has the indigenous services. We're evolving. We all coming together to bring a better condition and understanding, and with the power of healing that you're going to get from Paige, the power of contracts, and understand the legality and understanding how to create relationships from everything that you're going to get from Chief. You know, he's writing a book on relationships right now, and his books on treaties and different variations of bodies of work that we all put together over the years. You're going to get a plethora of different skill sets, different techniques that's going to help you develop into a more secure and better person to be able to go out here and thrive and have thrivability and understand how to conduct yourself and be around people and speak in a manner in which people they have to listen and respect it. So
Mm-hmm.
we're bringing a lot to the table. So check me out on Facebook. We will be having variations of different sites and where you can donate. We're working on that, and we're going to put everything together so that people can now understand the life and live the life that they want to live, but understand contracts, understand trust law, understand who they want going to be standing next to you. We are our brothers and sisters keepers. And that's all going to be what we do. We're going to keep you and protect you in your rights.
I say, brother. So, um, I want people to understand this Slaves and Sovereigns podcast is designed so that we can educate people on the basics, so that you understand who King is, what King is about, how committed King has been. I know a lot of people have seen me, on the internet for a lot of different things, a plethora of things with the healing works and social media and helping people with their businesses and things like that. But King has brought a whole nother component to this in terms of contracts, understanding the investigative work that it takes to help people with cases at a state level, at a federal level, whether it's mortgages, whether it's child support, whatever. This guy is very intelligent and is competent and knows how to dissect these contracts and the etymology behind the words being used. That's very important. A lot of people don't read that. So King is a scholar for sure and a teacher that, we are going to need in this new world that we're cultivating. And I appreciate him for his dedication and, his integrity for sure. His dedication and integrity when looking at this stuff. He's not like, chasing this money down. He's like, we have to set this up right. You know what I mean? Like, this has to be set up right. And so I want to thank you, King. The podcast will be aired every Tuesday. We'll be posting on Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The episode will be uploaded. I'm also going to upload it to YouTube so that you all can see the video, but the podcast will be available also on Spotify as well. So every Tuesday, please be on the lookout for the podcast. And we will have a question and answer component so that you can ask that on Spotify as well. If you have any questions that you would like answered during these episodes. And stay tuned for the donation-based classes. Stay tuned for when we open enrollment for the Temple of Fez. I give a lot of thanks and gratitude. Thank you all for being here. Any final words, King? Any final words?
Thank everyone for listening. Come on in, check out this movement, see what we got. Check out Paige. Let's all work together. It's time to unite and bring a better system and understanding so that we can better thrive and live a better life for our children. So, set it up for our children's children. In the scripture it says a man set up an inheritance not just for his children but his children's children. So, we're thinking at least three generations ahead. So let's put this into practice. Let's mold this institution to what we need it to be and have it stand on our principles.
Yes, give thanks and gratitude. Yep. Well, all right, folks. You know where to find King at. You know where to find me at. I am going to go ahead and upload this. I want to thank you all so much for watching and listening, and we will see you all next week. Peace and love.